We've got another video by Glaive Keo, and it's going over a pretty rough topical area, and it has been a rough topical area for a couple of CCs, and that is the fact that you're not allowed to criticize Genshin Impact. You're not allowed to criticize a game, right, that has gone ahead and made so little improvements, have actually degraded the quality of the game in recent months, and honestly recent years, and they've gone ahead and they've just made the game worse in so many different ways for so many different people. And talking about it is what causes issues because, well, you're dealing with Hoyoverse here. So let's hear about it from Glaive. Let's see what he's got to say.
There is this really weird idea floating around, especially in the gacha space, that if you genuinely love a game, if you spend time with it, enjoy playing it, then you just cannot criticize it. And honestly, that is probably one of the most baffling misconceptions out there when it comes to what I do. It is like saying you can't tell your favorite restaurant their new dish needs a little bit more salt just because you've eaten there hundreds of times. It just makes no sense. My videos, for example, often get slapped with labels like hating on Genshin or pushing an agenda or even doom posting. But the worst and the absolute worst is when they call me disingenuous or accuse me of lying, as if my opinions are pulled from some alternate dimension rather than, you know, from actually playing the game.
They're just going to assume that critiques from several years ago are not valid, even when the same exact critiques can be made in the present day. I think that's kind of like the big point over here. The reason why there are still so many critiques you could make for Genshin Impact is that it has so many outdated systems that you would imagine would have been fixed by now because they've been fixed in the other Hoyoverse games. Stuff like resin having an overflow so that you don't have to log in every single day and that you gain some benefit from some benefit from not logging in every single day and then, getting a little bit of overflow. That's in HSR. That's in ZZZ. Things like weekly boss mats being randomized, having 3 different ones for each boss, and then needing the dream solvent to convert them, and then the talent materials being locked to individual days of the week. Those are all things that don't exist in the other titles, only exist to frustrate the player, subject them to more RNG, or fuck with their planning for the week. That's all it does. You could have made those critiques for the game on day 1, and you can still make them 5 years in, and they're just telling you that you're disingenuous for saying something about it.
Reality is, my criticisms come from playing the game, from investing in the world and the story. They come from wanting to see it be even better. So when people try to shut down criticism by saying it is just hate, or that I'm somehow being dishonest about my feelings, they are not just missing the point, they're actively distorting what critical engagement truly is. It is not about tearing something down for the sake of it. It is about wanting the things you care about to improve. Let's just get into it. Now, to make it super clear that my points aren't just random complaints, let's look at my video about the 5.7 Archon quest, A Space and Time for You. Now, this particular quest is actually a perfect example of what I'm talking about, because here's the thing, it had some genuinely fantastic elements. The story concept itself is really ambitious. We're talking about time loops, the Abyss Order trying to literally rewrite history, even bringing back the dead nation of Conria using the Loom of Fate. These are bold, mind-bending ideas. It dove into complex themes, whether you can truly change the past, and what really defines a nation. Is it just the land or the shared memories? Deep stuff. And as always, the music was exceptional. It always carries so much of the emotional weight.
There are definitely good components to it. I think anyone can see that. But when they're repeatedly doing the same exact bad stuff, the same exact garbage storytelling, the same exact needlessly bloated, awful, worthless dialogue, and repeated phrases over and over and over again. Something that's been happening since 1.x. Calling that out isn't hate, it's pointing out what hasn't been improved in 5 years and billions of dollars in revenue.
The core idea with the traveler sibling involved in this whole time loop out of guilt and duty. It was just an intriguing setup. And I said all of that in the beginning of my video. It's not like you have to search for it. I presented it in front of you. But this is where the frustration sets in. The execution of these great ideas felt consistently flawed. It is like having a Michelin star recipe, but then burning half of the ingredients. First up is the show don't tell epidemic. It is still rampant. You have the major events happening, like Dainsleif single-handedly collapsing the Abyss front line. A lot of people expected this fight. It's a huge moment. But do we see it? No. We're told about it by an NPC. Even the fight between Dainsleif and this Abyss Lector, or Halfdan was it, which should be a spectacle, is off-screened. All you get is a vibrating rock. A vibrating rock for
This is what you're getting compared to, and this is where those critiques are coming from, because you're gonna have so many different individuals, right? Play Wuthering Waves 2.0, play this part of the story, and then compare it to the absolute dog water shit they're seeing in Genshin. And they know that Kuro Games has less budget. They don't have as much money to dedicate. They're working with a smaller team. And this is what they're putting out instead.
I'll handle the rest.
Imagine if this was just the same exact sort of stuff that you saw in Genshin. They didn't need to make it look like this. They didn't need to put that much effort into having a fight like this. They didn't need to put this sword throw in here, where she grips that shit with her feet, does a 360 in the air, and then flings it right at the dude's skull. That didn't need to happen. Oh yeah, they also didn't need to show this either. And this is what you're getting in Genshin Impact.
vibrating rock. A vibrating rock for a crucial fight.
It makes you think the developers are lazy. It makes you think that they're putting in no effort. And the reality is, isn't that just the truth? Is it wrong to critique devs that are lazy? Is it wrong to critique devs that are essentially stealing paychecks? Is it wrong to critique when you know this game makes billions of dollars and is doing probably about 3% of the work that a company that makes less than them is doing? It would be easier for Genshin to do this. They have the resources to do it. It would take less effort because they have all those resources, and they're still not doing it.
Drains the impact completely. Talk about Genshin, but no impact, am I right? Then there are the lifeless animations and the static presentation. Characters often just stand there like cardboard cutouts while important dialogue happens. Sometimes Paimon has to narrate what the character is supposedly doing or feeling because the animation is just not there. It makes big moments feel like you're reading a visual novel, which is so insane to me because Genshin Impact is not a visual novel, but the storytelling is so bad that some people defended the game saying that it's a visual novel when it's not. Genshin Impact is not a visual novel, which leads us to the dialogue bloat and the mechanical writing. It often feels like the script is just trying to hit a word count. Generic NPCs saying lines that add nothing. Characters sometimes act in ways that are just convenient for the plot, not because it makes sense for them. Finally, and this is a big one for me, there is the lack of tangible world impact. You go through these massive, universe-altering quests, like creating the atlas of the new world or witnessing the recreation of Khaenri'ah, but when the quest ends, the world just looks the exact same. Your actions, these huge, lore-shaking events, have no visible consequences in the game you actually play.
I would say this whole like world-changing part, that's probably where in this critique I'll give the devs a little bit of leeway. I think the idea behind asking for like some crazy, you know, wild stuff to happen in the game world is it can be a little bit rough in a live service game where you're meant to have full replayability of everything at every single time. Let's just say like a part of the map gets like deleted after you do like XYZ main quest. It like turns into a wasteland. You need to have some way to be able to go back to the original one. And the easiest way to do that, right, is to just not make it look different in the first place. Because it's like, it's a different gameplay experience to have the game world altered. And then what happens to like the backlog of quests? It would probably be the most seamless to have like a completely new instance zone that like becomes available. But that would require probably a little bit too much work as well. Right? It would be like a DLC sort of like map that maybe gets unlocked. And then you have like, you know, a bunch of new, you know, like a new subsection of regions there. All of that stuff. And the thing is just like, that's a lot of work that might necessarily not be as worth it compared to just like expanding the map similarly to how they do the region updates anyways. It's kind of just like, I can see the reasons for both. And as long as like this crazy world-changing stuff is being substituted with actual like meaningful things occurring to the world as a whole, which I do think Genshin does like a fair amount of. I don't know. I don't think it would be that crazy. to be honest.
Makes the stakes feel hollow, like it didn't really matter. You have these truly great narrative ideas that consistently fall short because of these reoccurring execution problems. It is a case of squandered potential, time and time again. Now, if you're still thinking these are just my weird niche complaints, let me introduce some undisputed proof. A fellow content creator, Bran Online, did a reaction video to my piece on the 5.7 Archon quest, and his take, well, he pretty much echoed my entire video. Not all of it, but most of it. He even pinned his own comment saying, and I quote, "This video does not scream Genshin hater to me. We share similar opinions." He agreed on pretty much all the big points. The show don't tell frustration, especially with Dainsleif, right? He felt that too. The weirdness of Daredeth, the sudden affection for the Traveler, the desire for more lasting world changes after
Spaghetti-O.
major events. He saw it all. He even connected my long, boring stretches criticism to his own reasons for stepping away from another game, Honkai Star Rail. Sure, he had a couple of minor differences, like maybe being less bothered by some specific NPCs, but the overall alignment was clear. It is almost like
when you actually watch the video and engage with the points,
a level-headed person can see the validity. Funny how that works. But then,
This is the thing, buddy. You're dealing with Genshin Impact players. And this is why I say you have to really be careful about the type of community that you're going to be appealing to with your content. It's from the perspective of, you know that Genshin Impact fans, for them to still be fans of the game, that you in your heart know is like not really that good and has only gotten worse or has stagnated or really just hasn't improved at all. For them to be rabid fans of that game, knowing the alternatives that are out there, knowing that Wuthering Waves has just taken so many of the bits and pieces that are garbage and elevated them to another level, to still be a rabid fan of Genshin, you have to be a little bit stupid. You have to be kind of dumb. Or you have to have the biggest sunk cost fallacy in action the world has ever seen. And in any of those situations, right, do you want to build a community? Do you want to curate content based around appealing to people that are stupid or sunk cost addicts? And the answer is probably not. Because to appeal to them, you would also need to be stupid in your content or have a crazy sunk cost. And is that something that you actually want to do? You're like essentially just cosplaying somebody that's mentally ill to retain these viewers. You don't have to take my word for it. Yeah, let me show you the example of somebody who's doing literally that. This is the sunk cost in action. This is being stupider than you were originally meant to be to try to appeal to a specific part of a player base. This is one of the biggest disasters I've ever seen a creator go through in the space, being this addicted to appealing to the Genshin Impact fanbase. Holy moly. I wonder if he's ever gonna make a response.
you look at the other side of the coin, the kind of tribalistic backlash you get. And this is where things get wild. My video was called out on Twitter, and the comments were something else. People were saying things like, this and that Saint Toss incel, or Kurobot incel giving opinion about story. Now I have to ask, in what world makes criticizing a game's storytelling suddenly equate to being an incel? An incel, if you don't know, is someone who is involuntarily celibate, meaning they can't get a romantic or sexual partner despite wanting one. How does—
Guys, if you don't like Genshin Impact, you're an incel. Hating Genshin Impact is what turns you into an incel. It's totally not the opposite. It's totally 1 million. It's not the opposite.
does that connect to a game criticism? It doesn't. It is a weird insult thrown out there to shut down an opinion you don't like. Well, I'm sorry. I didn't like the story as much as you do. And then you get the more common complaints. The constant complaining is genuinely ruining Natlan. As if my video about the Archon quest has some magical power to destroy an entire regional update. Like, brother, how are you gonna hold me accountable for ruining Natlan, but not the developers that make the region? It doesn't—
You want to know who ruined Natlan? Hoyoverse ruined Natlan. Because they said it was going to be the nation of war. It's the nation of Teletubbies and My Little Pony Adventures. It's the nation of exploration power creep. It's the nation of give us money or have the most awful time playing anything in this game. You want to know what Natlan introduced? Exploration power creep locked behind characters. Actual power creep locked behind characters. Pull Mavweek and Sitlali, or you literally cannot complete half of the new game modes that we're coming out with. Brother, there's no way.
Makes sense, gang. How's it my fault? They made the story, they made the storytelling. How's it me? Can we have the same energy for these devs? Damn. Or something like, Flip was right about this guy. He only wants to play Genshin to shit on it, and never want to interact with CCs who just play Genshin to shit on it and farm views. And this is where people just completely miss the concept.
You want to know what both Glaive and I would do if there was an opportunity to do it? If Genshin actually fixed the game, we'd be talking about how good the updates are. Glaive and I would unilaterally make videos about how good the new Genshin changes are. But every single time, the changes are just bad. So we have to make videos on how bad it is. You guys remember when artifact loadouts were announced? And then every single creator was like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever. Oh my gosh, Genshin Impact is saving the game. Oh, they're finally doing it after 2, 3, 4 years. And then they proceed to release them and they're not even loadouts. They're an auto generation that you have to manually find and replace anyways. So it's just the same. It's basically just the same exact shit that they've had in the game for like 2 years. This is why. It's because they just repeatedly do shit like that. Every single time they convince you they're gonna fix the game. They like just either, they actually just make it worse. Because they hype up stuff like it's actually going to be meaningful, and then it literally changes nothing.
They don't understand that the biggest, hardest hitting criticisms often come from someone who actually plays the game. How can you criticize something effectively if you have—
I'm going to have to do some callouts. Captain Cabinets, you don't play Genshin Impact, you're a fraud. Brax, you don't play Genshin Impact, you're a fraud. Mr. Pokey, you don't play Genshin Impact, you're a fraud. Tuwanto, you don't actually play Genshin Impact, you're a fraud. Ryuku, also a fraud. Fobmaster, Fraud Master. Ziox, fraud. Doro 44, fraud 44. It's already in the game! They just... This is what they advertised! That's why we shit on Genshin Impact, because they're asking you to shit on it at this point.
haven't experienced it. You can't. And if you're choosing to believe that I'm just shitting on it, that is your choice to live in a fake reality. My takes aren't from an alternate dimension. They're from the exact same reality you are refusing to acknowledge. The story is great, but the storytelling is bad. It is a simple distinction. Like, it's really easy, dude.
I still think the story in Genshin is bad. And I'll say it again. I've said it in a bunch of videos. When the overarching story is,
Traveler, we need to go find your sister. If we go over to this other region, then surely they'll tell us where your sister is and how to find her.
Traveler, I see that you've come to our region, and unfortunately, we have no idea where your sister is. But we have this issue that we could really use your help with.
Traveler, we should definitely go help them with this issue, and we're gonna do that for about the next 4 to 5 months of real life time.
Traveler, thank you for helping us solve this issue over the past 5 patch cycles. However, since we don't know where your sister is, let's direct you to this other region that definitely knows where your sister is.
Hey, Traveler, let's go to that new region now.
Traveler, now that you've come to our region, I'm sorry to tell you that we have no fucking clue where your sister is.
It's the same thing every single year. They just repeat the same thing over and over and over again. The only story that actually happens in Genshin Impact, the only thing that's actual plot progression, is when you meet up with Dainsleif once a year to do like a 1 hour to 2 hour quest. Everything else is actually nonsense. Genshin Impact over 5 years has honestly only had like 8 to 9 hours of actual story. Everything else is filler. Every region is actually just filler. There's been about 10 total hours of actual story.
But it's the one many choose to ignore. But what does this all tell us? It points to a clear disconnect. On one side, you have people who accuse me of not playing the game or simply hating it for views. But then you watch my detailed video and it is clear there is deep engagement. It is not about what the criticism is. It is about who is delivering it. And they just don't want to hear these points from me.
Well, that's the thing. It's entirely the delivery. Or really, I would like to say that, but I think recent evidence has shown us it doesn't even matter who's delivering it. Because Glaive is probably going to say, well, as somebody that plays Wuthering Waves, of course they're not going to be willing to hear criticism about Genshin Impactful from somebody that plays Wuthering Waves. But then Bran Online made his critiques about Genshin Impact, and then he got dogpiled by the community as well. I don't actually think it's even who's delivering it. I think it's merely just the subject matter. I'm gonna be honest here. The Genshin community is a little bit like Germany. The Genshin community is a little bit like modern day Germany, where if you go ahead and you mention, right, you mention the bad times in modern day Germany, you like go to jail, bro. Straight up. You like immediately go to jail. And in the Genshin Impact community, when you have any critique for the game, you're going to like the equivalent of like internet jail. Yeah, it's a little bit rough. it's a little bit rough. Germany at least is justified in what they're doing. Yeah, that was some fucked up shit back then. But Genshin Impact, they have this level of strictness in the community for no reason. It's a fucking game, brother.
A reality that some choose to ignore. And frankly, it is a reality a multi-billion-dollar company like Hoyoverse might be choosing to ignore as well. Why? Because they can keep getting massive revenue without having to significantly improve their game storytelling. They don't have to change anything to compete with more recent games because they're still making bank. It is a comfortable position for them, but it means players
Although ZZZ has been killing it lately, Glaive, I don't know what kind of... I hope that was your editor and not you, because ZZZ is literally in one of the worst spots it's ever been. I never thought I'd see the day when that a Hoyo game would have sub 1,000 viewers on Twitch.
who want more are left wanting. I'm trying to wake people up to this, but many are choosing to live in this kind of manufactured delusion. I don't get it. What are you gaining from this? Thankfully, not everyone got dropped on their head as a baby. There are always people who actually bring reasonable arguments to the table, and it's important to highlight them as well. I saw comments like, to be honest, he is right about some issues. For example, the amount of dialogue and the fact despite the amazing quest, nothing has changed in the world. That is someone who watched my video, understood the point, and agreed with a specific criticism. Another person said, to be fair, he praised the quest for what it was trying to convey and the plot's overarching theme. This commenter actually listened and understood that my video wasn't just a hate fest, that I highlighted the positives too. And then there's this one. Why not give it a watch to see others' perspective on the Natlan quest? He played through it. Shouldn't that be enough to criticize the game? Oh, we're saying that he did it to shit on the game. It's like a hive mind. It's amazing. This commenter perfectly nails the illogical hive mind mentality that dismisses any criticism purely because it exists. And
they're still playing Genshin Impact in 2025. They're still pretending that the story is engaging. They're still pretending that there's still an actual valuable game to be playing over here. And the thing is, you have to recognize what the audience is. And like I said before, I'll just state it again, they're full of mentally handicapped children. Are you surprised by this type of response? And the answer should be no.
finally, for all the hating that Glaive has on Hoyo, this was actually a good video because he praised the overall plot and the development of the main story. He rightfully critiques the obnoxious tell don't show. The Abyss gets whacked by Dane off screen. This person gets it. They saw the nuance, the praise, and still agreed with the core criticisms like the tell don't show issue that even Bran Online agreed with. These are the kind of level-headed responses you get when people actually watch the video and engage with the substance. It is not about being a hater. It is about having a different opinion and wanting the game to improve. I just don't understand how having a different opinion can spark so much unwarranted hate.
Because they're stupid. I like to believe that most sane Genshin Impact players have kind of just decided to drop the game after Wuthering Waves came out, because simply one look at both games would heavily influence you to just like quit one for the other. And genuinely, if you're still going ahead and you're shilling Genshin Impact, saying it's the pinnacle of gacha gaming in the big 2025, brother, you're either so heavily invested in the game, you have such a massive sunk cost fallacy that your opinion literally doesn't matter anymore because your self-worth has been tied into the amount of money or time you spend in the game, or you're just stupid. And at that point, you're arguing with people that can't be argued with anymore.
So to wrap this up, what it all comes down to is this. Having a differing opinion or offering criticism, even when it's sharp and direct, is simply not hate, especially when it comes from a place of genuine engagement and a clear desire to see something you care about get better. You don't spend hours analyzing something you despise, you just stop playing it. The pushback, the insults, the accusations of hating or lying, it really just highlights a much broader problem. It is a kind of tribalism in gaming communities, where if you're not blindly praising something, you are automatically the enemy. This mindset, frankly, just stifles any kind of real constructive conversation. It prevents games and even communities from
Okay, I don't even know what's going on with the editing of this fucking vid. Why is this music playing while Ju Fu Fu is dancing on the screen?
growing. Ultimately, discussions like these aren't about tearing down a game. They're about its potential. They're about asking, can this be better? Can we expect more from something we invest so much time into? Do you think gaming communities are becoming more or less open to genuine criticism like this? I mean, let me know in the comments down below, right? But that is all from me, Glaive Kyo, and I will see you in the next.
Fucking Dark Souls 2 Majula music. When you think about games that are having people defend it from pretty much every single type of criticism possible, it's really easy to break down why they're doing it. When you think about ZZZ, You have people defending the shit out of miasma, defending the shit out of the rupture class being introduced, defending how awful the 2.0 story was, saying it's all just setup. And now that 2.1 is a filler patch, they're like, it doesn't matter, we got swimsuits. Then you have the Genshin Impact players somehow still defending the design of their endgame, the power creep, all of that, the exploration quality of life, saying that Saurians are somehow better. They're just saying random shit that doesn't make any fucking sense. Then you got HSR players telling you that power creep in the game is good. Think you're Mr. Pokies. Oh yeah, the game's going on. The game's going down a great spot, bro. Yeah, everything's great, bro. And then the devs themselves say that they need to buff the older characters and add a skip button. I remember Mr. Pokey saying, oh no, the game doesn't need a skip button. They're only saying this shit because they know there's something wrong with the game. It should actually be fixed, but the developers are so greedy, they're so stupid, and they're so selfish that they'll never actually do it. Even though there are changes and fixes that literally are massive handicaps to the overall experience. But when it comes to Kuro Games, right, they listen for almost every single circumstance when it comes to those types of changes. The only things that I personally feel like Kuro isn't really budging on is the systems when it comes to like echoes and tuners and 4 stars. And I think that when you think about those being the two issues with the game, one of them being linked to replayability and the daily login grind, which is echoes, that one makes a good bit of sense to me, right? And then when you're thinking about the whole 4-star situation, where 4 stars that are too good have already done a lot of damage to the game, think about Rosia's banner. Think about Rosia's sales, knowing that Sanhua already exists. I can see why they're taking their time with stuff like that. And the thing is, right, especially when it comes to the 4-star units, when the game's endgame isn't nearly as difficult as it could be, like in other games like HSR, ZZZ, and Genshin, well, it doesn't really matter that much, the lack of 4 stars, when you don't really need them to clear. Because guess what, guys? Yeah, Wuthering Waves is not designed to be one of those games where you need best in slots for every single fucking team, unlike the Hoyoverse games. Overall, I can see where all the sides are coming from in this vid. One side is clearly brain damaged, and there is a right side to be on when it comes to this equation. Let me know what you all think about this one, ladies and gents. Peace.